Okay, so what we're going to do is we're now going to go to a panel discussion. So we want to bring our panel up on the stage. We have 4 panelists. Christian, do you have somewhere? Thank you. So if we could just make our way over to the table. So we've invited these 4 people with expertise and knowledge in different areas related to the development of sustainable communities, as well as having some familiarity with the Naugatuck Valley region. So the subject is developing sustainable communities. I'm going to briefly introduce each one of the panelists. We've asked each of them to make a very short presentation relating their professional expertise to the subject matter. And after each of the 4 of them go through that, then I'll lead them in a panel discussion regarding the issues. Now, we have 2 opportunities today to take questions from the audience. Time permitting, we'll do it as part of this panel discussion or at the end. There are 2 people out in the audience with microphones, Sean and Joanna from the COG. Get their attention if you have a question, if you'd like to pose a question to the panel. Any of our other speakers who are still here, still in the room, or maybe on later on today, if you want to contribute, great. We'd love to have you participate in the discussions. So, our first panelist, Mark Nielsen. Mark is my deputy director at Naugatuck Valley Council of Governments, as well as our director of planning. He's the guy who does the real work. I just stand up here and talk usually. So Mark's responsible for implementing our regional environmental and transportation planning programs and leading our mission as a metropolitan planning organization for the central Naugatuck Valley region and our affiliation with Greater Bridgeport and Valley as an MPO in that part of the Bridgeport-Stanford urbanized area. Prior to NVCOG, Mark was the senior transportation planner with the Greater Bridgeport Regional Council, which is now known as MetroCOG, where he managed the agency's regional transportation program with a focus on assessment of highway operations, sustainable transportation options, and non-motorized transportation efforts. So please welcome Mark, who will discuss the state of our region's transportation system, its deficiencies, and the evolving trends. Mark?
Okay, thank you. Happy to be here today to talk about the Naugatuck Valley region. I was sort of asked to sort of set the stage, as it will, for the discussion about the importance of investing in our infrastructure. Unfortunately, following Mayor O'Leary, Commissioner Redeker, and Commissioner Sullivan, they sort of set the stage very well and stated the need for and the benefits for making that investment, as well as the consequences for not doing that. They talked about the high-level vision. Our job now is to sort of implement and realize that vision. The Naugatuck Valley region is well positioned to succeed in reinventing and reinvigorating its economy and its transportation system. Naugatuck Valley is located in west central Connecticut, centered around Waterbury. The city actually has very good access to the other cities throughout Connecticut: Hartford, New Haven, Danbury, Stamford, and Bridgeport. It's well connected by a interstate system and a series of railroads. It's also connected to the mega region of New York, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island, with Boston and Providence. Naugatuck Valley region is made up of 19 cities and towns. It's centered around Waterbury. We have Bristol to the north. We have Shelton to the south. And it's a home to about 448,000 residents. It's also historically, the Naugatuck Valley was supported by a very robust manufacturing economy. This sort of developed around its location on the Naugatuck River and the Housatonic Rivers. As that manufacturing grew up, as part of that, the housing needed for the workers also grew up. And because the manufacturing was located in the downtown areas, you developed very compact, high-density town centers. They were very vibrant. They were the place to be. And they were also very walkable. The geography and waterways sort of helped define the region in that because of the valleys, it sort of constrained how these cities could grow. They're relatively closely spaced, and which actually is a benefit for the region. Next. Okay. After sort of the manufacturing boom period, the whole region began to change. Businesses began to move out and relocate out. Floods of 1955 sort of devastated the region. Many of the manufacturing plants were unable to recover from those devastating floods. One of the big things that happened was highway construction sort of changed the character of the region. It allowed people to travel outside the region for shopping, for employment. And so the businesses sort of started, relocating to other areas. The effect of that was sort of a downturn in the economy, and our cities became underpopulated. In the factories, it was mentioned, several times this morning, the factories closed and became brownfields. However, today the region remains a region in motion. Nearly 2 million trips take place in the region, to the region, and within the region every day. And the trips are made on a fairly mature transportation system, but the transportation system is somewhat diverse. We do have our highways and roads, Interstate 84, Route 8, US Route 6 in the northern tier of the region, Route 34 along the southern tier, and a series of other state roads. But we do have the advantage of having a commuter rail line that runs through from Waterbury, connects to the main line in Devon. However, the transportation system that we have is in need of repair. The highways are older, they're beginning to age, they're carrying a lot more traffic than they were ever designed to. The Waterbury branch does provide commuter rail service, but the service is somewhat limited. We also have a bus system. And local buses do provide transportation needs for a lot of residents. We have Northeast Transportation that serves the greater Waterbury area. We have Greater Bridgeport Transit that operates several routes into the lower valley. We also have a bus system that serves the city of Bristol that provides service into New Britain with connections into New Britain. We have a couple of CT Transit New Haven division lines, routes that run from New Haven that connect up to Waterbury and the lower valley. And then finally, we have CT Transit connections that serve Bristol and Waterbury to make connections into New Britain, to connect to the busway to Hartford. Again, we have a lot of trips that are made. We have job centers within the region that are scattered around, and because of the combination of jobs in the region and population of the region, we have a lot of people moving in and out. The next couple of numbers sort of show, where those trips are coming to, going from. We have 124,000 that move between, our region and Hartford in the Northeast every day, 91,000 that go into the New Haven and Southeast area, and about 70,000 that head toward Bridgeport and Stamford in the Southwest, including New York City, and then a number of about 30,000 that head toward the Danbury and New York State area. However, within the region itself, we still have 140,000 work trips that take place that stay within the region. So it demonstrates that there's still a lot of people who do live and work in the region. As we've talked a lot about today so far, we have an aging infrastructure. The highway system, and especially our interstate and Route 8 are deteriorating. They need repairs. Again, as I mentioned, those facilities were designed to carry a lot fewer traffic than they are actually handling today. That's resulted in daily congestion during the peak hours, slower speeds. Again, the rail system, we have it, but it's underutilized because it doesn't really meet the needs of most of the commuters. And we need to invest in transit to help avoid some costly highway repairs. Commissioner Redeker mentioned about the $500 million that are slotted for Route 8. If we try to repair all the needs on Route 8, that number would probably increase substantially. So investing in transit makes a lot of sense. Over the next 20 years, what are we likely to see? Well, again, we're going to have a growing population, which is only going to increase the amount of traffic, congestion, delays. We need to focus on our alternative modes. Again, the trend suggests that we're going to have an aging population. More and more people are going to be reaching, older than 65. That changes what kind of transportation we have to provide to ensure mobility and access for that population. Online retailing is increasing. More and more people are buying their goods online. And that changes how freight and goods are moved. Traditionally, it's always been you have shipments to a retail outlet or warehouses. Now a lot of the goods are being shipped directly to our homes. So each home is becoming a freight node. Population is shifting back to the cities. We heard that earlier. And that is something we have to be aware of. We have to provide the transit and walkable communities to support people's desire to move back to the cities. We need to invest in our existing infrastructure with a focus on the Waterbury branch line to increase that service and increasing investments on the brownfields. So that sort of gives a very quick overview of our region as it is performing today.
Thank you, Mark. We were going to give the panelists each 5 minutes, but Mark's taken everyone's time, so no.
You didn't move the slides fast enough.
It's always my fault.